If you live on planet Earth, no matter wherever you are, it's highly unlikely that you've never heard of or had a Coca-Cola once in your entire life. Hardly any soft drink brand has worldwide recognition and distribution, but Coca-Cola has a dark history. Since its invention by John Stith Pemberton in 1886, there have been numerous criticisms of Coca-Cola as a product and the Coca-Cola Company's business practices. The Coca-Cola Company is the world's largest soft drink company with over 500 different products. Let's figure out why there's so much criticism towards the soft drink. Data is all around us concerning everything. I could go on and on about how information is almost at odds with itself in our culture, but I'm more interested in how data relates to marketing. Having said that, this discussion isn't about whether data is correct or not, but about whether the data is correct, but the practical reality is quite different. Consider the history of the Coca-Cola Company. We all know it, whether we drink it or not. It's one of the most successful brands in history, thanks in large part to exceptional marketing over the last century. However, they were losing market share to PepsiCo in 1985, and all data suggested that it was because people preferred the taste. Pepsi and Coke have both conducted blind taste tests to obtain the results, and it appeared that Pepsi had the advantage. So, in 1985, Coke changed their formula and introduced New Coke. And they had the science to prove it. New Coke won the blind taste test after extensive research and testing, but the data led to an assumption. That is not how things turned out in the end. Coke had created a statistically superior product, but the backlash was massive and sales plummeted. People despised New Coke for reasons unrelated to its taste. They had lost sight of their original established brand. Coke was a household name, a constant in people's lives, so much so that even if you didn't drink it, Coke represented friendship, family, and good times, and changing their formula seemed to betray consumers across multiple generations. Coke eventually reverted to their original formula due to the massive backlash. They kept New Coke on the shelves, hoping that the better taste would eventually win the crowd over, but New Coke died slowly and faded into obscurity. In fact, the reintroduction of classic Coke increased their market share as people returned to the product due to a shared history and familiarity, proving the data-driven assumption incorrect and demonstrating the power of consistently remaining true to your brand's core essence. In today's age of relentless data and statistics, there's a warning here for us marketers. The data may be correct, but is it the right data? Comprehending a brand as more than the sum of its products or services is critical. Why do people believe it? It's because people believe in what the brand represents and become loyal to it over time by becoming part of the brand's story. That's why everyone adored Coca-Cola, not because it was the best tasting beverage available. Now, the Pure Food and Drug Act was passed in 1909, and the United States government seized 40 barrels and 20 kegs of Coca-Cola syrup because the added caffeine was deemed harmful. One of the first notable criticisms leveled at Coca-Cola was that it caused severe mental and motor deficits. This resulted in the first Coca-Cola lawsuit and trial, with the official charges being that Coca-Cola was adulterated and misbranded. The United States government versus 40 barrels, 20 kegs Coca-Cola trial began in March 1911, a year and a half after the government had seized the barrels and kegs. The lawsuit was led by Harvey Washington Wiley, a chemist and the head of the Bureau of Chemistry in the United States Department of Agriculture. Wiley was opposed to Coca-Cola primarily because of the added caffeine. The judge dismissed the trial after it included numerous studies and paid testimonies from both parties. However, when the Supreme Court heard the case in 1916, the United States government prevailed. As a result, the caffeine content of Coca-Cola was reduced. In 1916, the US government unsuccessfully attempted to force the Coca-Cola Company to remove caffeine from its products through a federal lawsuit. In 1944, a waitress named Escola was putting away glass Coca-Cola bottles when one of them exploded in her hand. She successfully sued the company, claiming liability. Coca-Cola contains a lot of sugar, especially sucrose, which causes dental caries when consumed regularly. Aside from that, the high caloric content contributes to obesity. Both are major public health concerns in the developed world. According to the Harvard School of Public Health, people who drink 1 to 2 cans of sugary beverages daily are 26% more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, as reported by Medical News Today in 2015. Nutritionist Rosemary Stanton has criticized the company's reduced sugar options, claiming that a can of Coca-Cola with stevia still contains 37% of an adult's daily sugar intake. Coca-Cola Co. partially funded the pro-industry advocacy group International Life Sciences Institute for many years before discontinuing support in 2021. In 1978, a former Coca-Cola co-executive founded ILSI, which has employed a number of former high-level Coca-Cola co-employees. To combat obesity, the organization promotes physical activity rather than dietary changes, taking a stance similar to Coca-Cola co-funded research and messaging. The Center for Science in the Public Interest, a consumer group in the United States, filed a class action lawsuit against Coca-Cola in January 2009. The lawsuit concerned vitamin water claims as well as the company's flavors. According to claims, the 33 grams of sugar are more harmful than the vitamins and other additives. Coca-Cola calls the suit ridiculous. Coca refusal colas to print its labels in Catalan has sparked debate in Catalonia. On December 12, 1993, the platform for the Catalan language managed to make a world record by bringing together more than 15,000 empty Coca-Cola cans in Barcelona's central square, Plaça de Catalunya, and using them to build a giant sign that read "Let's Label in Catalan." The organization adopted the slogan "The Coca-Cola Label" in 135 languages around the world, but not in Catalan at the time. On May 31, 2014, Plataforma per la Llengua collected over 40,000 Coca-Cola cans for a mosaic with the letters "Etiqueto en Català," or "Label in Catalan," in the heart of Barcelona, Catalonia, at Plaça de Catalunya, to demand the company label in Catalan after more than 20 years of lawsuits, recalling the act of December 12, 1993. POM Wonderful unsuccessfully argued in 2014 that Coca Minute, Cola's Made division, mislabeled a product as pomegranate and blueberry juice when it was 99.4% apple and grape juice. According to POM Wonderful, this labeling resulted in an unfair loss of sales of its own pomegranate and blueberry juice. The Coca-Cola Company announced in 2007 that it would no longer conduct or directly fund laboratory experiments on animals unless required by law. The announcement came after PETA chastised the company for financing invasive animal experiments, including one in which researchers cut into chimps' faces to study nerve impulses used to perceive sweet taste. Some experimenters have criticized PETA's campaign against Coca-Cola and other corporations, claiming that losing corporate funding would halt their work. Coca-Cola reportedly paid $150 million to Warner Bros., a Time Warner unit, in 2001 for the exclusive global marketing rights to at least one Harry Potter film, thereby enticing children to drink more soft drinks, a move criticized by the Center for Science in the Public Interest. The New York Times published an article on August 9, 2015, revealing that Coca-Cola had made significant investment in the non-profit Global Energy Balance Network, which promoted a scientific solution to the obesity crisis, namely that more exercise rather than calorie restriction was the way to maintain a healthy weight. According to health experts, the non-message profits was deceptive and part of Coke's attempt to deflect criticism about the company's role in the spread of obesity and type 2 diabetes. On February 22, 2022, Coca-Cola announced that it had been stockpiling ingredients for drink production in Russia to mitigate the impact of sanctions imposed by Western countries in response to Moscow's recognition of 2 breakaway Ukrainian regions. A week after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Coca-Cola announced on March 3, 2022, that the company would not cease operations in Russia and that all of Coke's operational production and logistics facilities in Russia were operational. Coca-Cola agreed to pay $192.5 million to settle a class action racial discrimination lawsuit in November 2000 and promised to change the way it manages, promotes, and treats minority employees in the United States. Protesters at Coca-Cola's annual meeting in 2003 claimed that black people remained underrepresented in top management, were paid less than white employees, and were fired more frequently. Because of the settlement decree, Coca-Cola was forced to put in management practices that have put the company in the top 10 for diversity, said Luke Visconti, co-founder of Diversity Inc., which rates companies on their diversity efforts in 2004. Thank you for taking the time to watch. If you'd like us to make more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel and leave your video suggestions in the comment section.